All right, guys, welcome to the first of many with my good friend Giuseppe Mellone. Am I saying that right, Giuseppe Mellone?
Giuseppe Mellone.
Yeah, Mellone. Oh, dude, I need
Yeah,
to put an
that's how you
accent on the E.
that's how you get away from the Irish way of saying Malone, because everyone's, oh, it's Malone like the Irish. Nope, Mellone. That's the Italian way of saying
Yeah, I have none of that sexiness to my name. It's just hard consonants, Ben Lawton.
it.
There's no sexy E at the end. Uh, but yeah, dude, I know we've come together. We thought we'd like have an idea of making a podcast. There's a lot of similarities between what I do and what you do. So I'll kind of go into a bit about myself, explain who I am, and then I'll pass the mic over to you. So for those of you who don't know, my name's Ben Lawton. I founded and scaled my own video production company in 2017 to $500,000 per year, and then I exited that company last year to transition into coaching full time. The reason being, is a trifecta of things. I got married, turned 30, had a kid. Having my daughter Una made me realize I was insanely fulfilled in my home life, but insanely unfulfilled in my career. So I was like, okay, golden handcuffs. I'm in a really good job. I'm obviously making good money. I was driving a nice car, but I was miserable. And for me, it got to the point where I knew I had to make a change. I knew I had to do something that was going to give me that same fulfillment in my career as it does at home. So I transitioned into coaching. And the reason I did is because I was on one of these shoots, the super corporate blue fucking collar office in London, and they have those horrendous quotes on the wall, like "Don't be a dickhead" and stuff like that, right? Or like the best way to make money is to make money. Some shit I don't know. I'm just quoting like awfulness now. But I saw one by a guy. I think it was Rick Gordon or someone similar, and it said, "You will never be truly successful unless you help others achieve success." And that quote for me, ironically, changed the trajectory of my life to the point now where I sold my company, started coaching full time, and now I help videographers do the exact same as I did. And that's been my story. Giuseppe, over to you.
And you've been crushing it, man. You've really been changing lives with what you're doing
Thank you,
with
brother.
this. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so excited to be on this journey with you with this podcast. It's going to be so awesome, provide so much value.
Hell
So,
yeah.
real short snippet of who I am. Um, as Ben introduced me, I'm Giuseppe Mellone. I own a company called Rise Up Innovations. It's a coaching company where we empower gym owners to really take their business on their own so that they can scale it and change more lives. How that all started, broke college kid, needed, money and a free gym membership, worked the front desk, grew the ladder from there, and really got interested in sales, in just helping people, finding out that helping people and sales very much coexist with one another, and grew my career all the way through different companies, but ended up with Orange Theory Fitness at the very end, being a director of operations, overseeing their most expensive locations in New York City, which is right behind me. Was able to take over their flagship location, scale that up, and scale all locations to 100K per month in monthly recurring revenue with proven strategies, battle tested, and similar to you, Ben, I had the golden handcuffs. I was getting paid really well, but I was just not fulfilled anymore. I was
Hmm.
running ragged. It was just not something that I was really keen to and excited about. And the leadership at the time, they were going in a direction I didn't believe in, which to me is it's more so they were focused money, 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 and I was focused more of empowerment and changing lives, because when you could change more lives, you can make more money. But if you focus so much on just the money, you can't change more lives because you're focusing on something that is so fluctuating, right? But changing
Amen.
lives is very constant. So we had a mutual separation, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I realized that during my time in leadership, I had a lot of directors, managers, other people in other fitness organizations reaching out for me for support of like, Giuseppe, how did you scale your studios to 100K per month? Like, I can't even believe that's a real thing. And I realized that I had something here. And I also realized that a lot of owners, more so private mom and pop owners, just don't have a lot of support, especially in the franchise world. They see their franchise business manager maybe 4 times a year, every quarter. And it's the same kind of conversation of sales and marketing and all this stuff, but not the real in-depth, nitty-gritty, personalized information that's required. So I started my coaching company, Rise Up Innovations. Went through a little bit of imposter syndrome at one point. I know we're going to talk a little about that today. And then have been able to grow and help multiple gyms scale and grow. And it's been an absolute blast. And I am so fulfilled in what I do and how I help people. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And it's brought opportunities like you and me connecting together and providing more value in what we do so we can help the world.
But yeah, that's an awesome story, man. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
you said earlier, I'm stoked that I've got to meet you, and I know there's going to be a lot of crossovers and transitions between New York City and the Tower of London.
Absolutely, dude.
But yeah, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. So when you I guess started out on your journey, was there a moment for you where sales and systems clicked and then gyms started scaling? I imagine when you started, there was a lot of like throwing shit against the wall, nothing was sticking. What stuck?
Yeah. So in the very beginning, you know, and I think you can relate to this, the internet wasn't as knowledgeable in terms of learning a lot of things. So a lot of it was trial and error. And I didn't really know anything about sales. I just knew it was about service. And what really turned for me was when I got into a leadership role, even though I was really good at sales, and this is a very common problem with gyms, they usually promote their top salesperson to a management role, expecting that more sales will increase. But being really good at sales and teaching somebody how to sell are two totally different things. And so learning how to devise a system in place that takes somebody who may not have my qualities, my personalities, but can follow something that is proven to work if they follow it in the right way and then almost kind of mold it in their own personality is what really clicked for me. And that was just through a lot of trial and just talking with people. I'm sure it's the same thing with you with videographers where everybody's got a different style of the way they approach their business, how they talk to their clients, and how they set up their production. But at the same time, having a system, kind of a resource just to fall back on really makes you understand that, okay, like where can we modify this to make it better? And so over time, it's just reps. You
Yeah.
gotta you gotta be the person, right? Like you have to have repetition. And I know you know that from scaling your agency. Like I'm sure in the very beginning for you, it wasn't so simple as all of a sudden you're making $500,000. It was a lot of trial and error and a lot of realizing like, okay, we have to keep moving forward. And so once we got that system in check, all of a sudden it became just like a gold rush. Like everything just started going and going. But then, as you know, and I would love for you to talk about this with your agency, new levels, new devils, right? So
Yes.
you get to one point where you're like, great, we're hitting this point. Now we have to do something else different. In my world, it was we can close sales in the studio, but how do we get businesses to close volume of sales without even people coming in so that we can get 10, 20 memberships in one day from a company? And how do we do that without even having to show them the facility? And how do we communicate that? And I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, tying into the sales and systems, but more so how you scaled your agency to where it just prospered and grew.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the new levels, new devils statement, because it very much is like the problems that you have when you're doing 500,000 a year are completely different problems to when you're doing 50K a year, right? And fundamentally, they cause the same amount of stress, same amount of headache. They are just on paper larger, but they're not really larger. You're just playing at a different level, right? It's like level one, you only have a handgun, but then you get to level 10, you have a bazooka. So you have way more ammo, way more destruction. So you can carry yourself through those levels easier, but it's still tough, right? And I remember at the start, it was very much like when we started in videography in 2017, you could just exist with a camera, just like back in the day. If you were the only gym in town, you would just thrive, right?
Yeah.
But people
Yep.
people wanted to work out, and like just people wanted video back then, and that demand hasn't gone away. What's increased and what's changed is the competition. So now it's like the levels you have to play at when there's 20, 30 videographers in your town, 20, 30 gyms in your town, is how do you become the best at doing that? And that was the hardest level for me to crack, I would say, the one that took years, not months, and a lot of introspection. So when I started the agency, I was very much hands-on with a camera constantly. But then about year three, year four, I realized that if we actually wanted to scale this company to some serious numbers, I was going to have to put the camera down and pick the books up. That's when I found people like Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, Dan Martell, and I was like, okay, these guys are spitting a lot of wisdom. I did all of Hormozy's courses. I started reading marketing books. I did like government-sponsored MBA shit, which was a complete waste of time, a complete bollocks, because it's all based around like old school businesses, how to get clients for your dry cleaning company, which just wasn't applicable to the digital age of that we find ourselves in now. And to go back to the levels that the every level has a new devil. I remember it was very much we were hovering around 150K a year, And I was like, fuck, how do I get to 300K? And I just made one very simple change, which, like, as I'm going to say this out loud, it's going to sound ridiculously simple. It's I just made a pricing matrix. So I was like, okay, instead of every job that comes in, I look at the client, look at the work, and I just pull a number out of my ass of like, that's going to be 2K. I went onto Excel, I made a pricing matrix of like, okay, day rate for a videographer, day rate for photographer, day rate for post production, X, Y, and Z. How much do these things actually cost the business? How much profit am I going to add? And what happened was, A, quoting became faster, but B, my quotes became very consistent. So then one client to the next, the quotes are consistent. I didn't have this inconsistency anymore. One guy was paying 600, one guy was paying 4K. It was consistent across the board. And when you level the consistency across a year, we tripled our revenue. And to me, that was like, holy shit, I've just changed one thing in the business and I've dialed one thing in and it's had this much of an impact, right? Have you had anything like that before when you were scaling gyms?
Yeah, but I want to touch on two things you brought up that I think are super powerful. One, you mentioned that like those government courses were a waste of time. And I think a lot of people go through that when they're getting free guides, free resources, going through YouTube videos. But I think there needs to be a mindset change there where you actually created more clarity. And that's the second part is if you didn't take the time to actually go through those things and go, this didn't work for me, you would have
Mm,
never known. And I think a lot of people get stuck in this idea that they try different things. And if it doesn't work out or they don't learn something of value, they go, man, this was a waste of time. No, it actually was a good investment of time because now you know this is not the thing to do. For me, when
yes.
I started, I invested in a consulting program and these guys are great, but they were so old school. There was no one my age group. They were in their mid 40s and they were talking about insurance and all these things and I was like I scale gyms. Like it was totally so out there and I didn't necessarily get a lot of value from it, but I learned that, okay, this is not the direction that I need to go. And even though it cost me a pretty penny, it was an investment that told me this is not the direction I need to go. I need to change course. And so a lot of people think, oh, if I pull something that's not valuable for me, this isn't good. This is a negative outcome. You can just change your mindset and realize, no, this was good that I did this. I now know it doesn't work for me. I need to do something different. Because if you didn't do that, Ben, we wouldn't have had the same mentors that we do have now, and we
True.
wouldn't have found them, right? So I feel like that's a really important thing. And in terms of the pricing matrix, like gaining clarity is so important. It's essential. I did not really find success in growth until I started tracking everything.
Yes.
Like, I just knew in the very beginning, like, I could sell, this is great, blah, 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 blah. But I would never look at my bad deals or even my good deals and go, what did I do really good here and what did I do bad here? And so once I started really tracking everything and taking notes of everything, I now built something of myself where I was like, okay, this could be something that I can utilize as a system that, okay, this doesn't work, but this works. This creates more clarity, this doesn't. And when you're training employees, especially in the gym world of how to sell, in the fitness world, a lot of the salespeople are like they're college kids. This is their first job. They've never sold anything before. Some of them even apply for the role of a sales associate and they're afraid of selling. And it's really funny because it's like, why did you apply for this role? But if you're able to build a process, I have a saying, managers follow processes, directors and owners create them. And if you can build a process that is bulletproof where they follow it and they crush it, you already know where to fix the problem. Either A, if they're not getting results, but they're following through the process, it's the owner's responsibility to go, okay, we need to modify this a little bit. Or B, if they're not getting results and you could find where they're not following the process, guess
Mm.
what? You know where to highlight it. And that makes it so much faster to clean up problems and initiate things. You talk about a handgun and a bazooka, right? If you can't have an accurate shot of where you're shooting, that bazooka is going to blow up the wrong building, right? No, we don't want that to happen. And so to have clarity and understand how far is that building? Are we in the right distance? What's the wind look like, right? And not having that clarity can easily hurt you, especially at that higher level when you're an owner operator, where every decision, even though it might be fewer decisions, they're bigger decisions. And the wrong decision can cost you thousands of dollars. And I'll just give
Hmm.
you one example with that group I was a part of. The CEO at the time made a really bad decision, and it was the decision to basically cut a whole portion of the workforce because they thought we could save $11 million in revenue and expenses by cutting this portion. And even though myself and a lot of the partners said no, it was still pushed. And it was one decision that cost so much loss in revenue. I mean, you never want to be on Reddit. And we were all over Reddit and how bad things were, and it all put a bad impression on us, even for the people who didn't make that decision. So the certain decisions I think you brought up was really great, was that the idea of clarity with the pricing matrix. I
Mm,
think that's super key, and I think if you're an owner and operator, if you're a coach, whatever you're doing, you're owning a gym, you're doing videography, wherever you're at, every decision really matters. You just need to have clarity and you need to invest your time in the right spaces. Does that make sense to you? Yeah,
complete makes
right?
sense. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, I think as well as the chasing of the clarity sometimes can actually cause inaction, right?
Yeah.
Like when we're all just trying to, like, it's going back to what you said that, blowing up the wrong building. It doesn't matter how good you are at business. At some point, you are going to blow up the wrong building, right? And it's kind of accepting that that's going to happen and you're prepared for it, right? So the amount of things that I tried in terms of the marketing world, where I tried SEO, I tried email campaigns, I tried different types of ads, Google ads, like tried everything under the sun to try and find a reliable lever I could pull that was going to bring in leads every day. I wasted tens of thousands of pounds, $20,000, right? And next to that, the amount of fucking time and headache I did testing them, the amount of time and headache I had to convince my business partner at the time that we should try a different marketing strategy when he was like, but the last five you tried didn't fucking work. But like, that's kind of what it takes. You have to keep trying things until you find something that sticks. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to if you want to succeed in a business, is just be willing to fail consistently over time. Because if you do so, you will find the golden egg, you will find the thing that works for you, and that will allow you to get to the next level, right? And that really goes back to the whole tracking thing, because if you're not tracking what you're doing, you have no idea what's working and what's not working and what is working. And you have no idea, like, you can look at the sales process and realize, oh, I've got a really good close rate. Like I get 10 leads a month and 8 turn into clients, but the clients that I'm closing, they're all low ticket. It's like, okay, so you're good at sales, but the marketing sucks. Whereas a typical entrepreneur will just look at that and think, wow, 80% close rate, I'm sick. I have so many video projects coming on. I have so many people joining my gym. And it's like, yeah, but these guys are churning after 1 month, or they're paying you £400 for a video and they're ghosting you. Like, that's not really a sustainable way to grow a business. And you can only find that out via tracking, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, you bring up such a good point, and I think where I would like to ask you is, obviously you start off in the freelancing space for a little bit. So, I think a lot of people in your sector definitely want to build a business and they want to build something that's bigger. Not saying everybody, but I feel most do. What was how, like, the shift between a freelancer to a business owner? How does that work? How does that happen? And what do you have to do both extrinsically in terms of the business side and also intrinsically as a human being? What do you have to do to get into that transition?
Fucking great question. Um, I think intrinsically of yourself, you have to make the mindset shift that you can't you kind of have to be detached from the outcome. The only thing you can really focus on is the inputs on a day-to-day basis. And if you can go to sleep every night knowing you did everything you could to move that needle forward, you are going to win. Simply as. And in terms of like the exterior, it was very much like, okay, all I'm doing as a freelancer is I'm trading time for money, right? And there's only so far you can scale that. Like videographer day rates, or like video production day rates in the UK, you're not really going to exceed 5K a day unless you're like top 0.001%. And those guys are playing on a whole different level anyway. So in terms of what you can achieve, you've already got a ceiling. So the way you can move past that and go from freelancer to business owner is you start providing results rather than services. So then it becomes really like, okay, there's this service-based business, there's this business here in London or in Oxford, wherever we are. How can we get them the results? But first and foremost, what no one fucking does is they don't ask, what results are you after? Like, thanks for the brief. Oh, you want video content? Great. Why? what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Right. And like, I realized halfway through my journey that I just wasn't asking that question. Like, it's one of the most paramount important questions you can make, I think, going from freelance to business owner, is like asking, what are your clients trying to achieve? And then we reverse engineer the solution using video marketing to solve that. Instead of just saying, oh, here's the video, we've hit the brief, it's 90 seconds, it's got a good hook, it's included these 3 talking points, and they post it, it does fuck all, because you haven't thought about the overall campaign of what you're trying to do. And I think for me, everything changed when I watched this interview. I think it was Jeff Bezos, and he's literally talking about customer success and customer journey, why that's the most paramount thing he's ever cared about, right? And you look at Amazon as a product now, it's so easy to use. Any complaints, you go on live chat, they get it sorted, come same day, free delivery, you get anything you want, right? And like, I know there's an argument about high street brands suffering. Boo hoo, that's not really my fault. That's, you've got out competed, right? It's the market. But I remember I watched that interview and I was like, okay, how can I just purely focus on customer journey? So I started focusing on the first inception point of when I started working with a customer, all the way through to delivery of the video, to after that, like, did it do the things you needed to do? Yes, perfect. What did it do? No. Okay, what did we do wrong? How can we improve next time? More importantly, how can we remedy the situation currently? Because it costs so much more to find a new customer than it does to keep them. And like, this is the amazing thing I found with like providing a service as a business as a whole. If you just really give a shit about the clients you work with, you are going to print cash. You are going to make a lot of money by just caring. And that has to go a level of, client has $1,000, they want this thing. It's like, okay, how can we turn that $1,000 into way more? What are we trying to solve for them? And what ironically found by doing that process is clients often had a lot more than $1,000 once you actually dig down into the root cause of the problem, and you could show them how much they were wasting by not fixing it, right? When it came to like recruitment, they were spending 10, 20K a month on churn, when if they had just increased the branding and had better recruitment strategies using video, they could alleviate all of that stress. And so all of a sudden, $1,000 budget becomes 140 grand across a year to fix it. Right. And like, I don't know if you found that within marketing and gyms and stuff like that, just like focusing on the why, right?
I think the biggest thing that changed for me, especially even when I was operating studios and even today, is there needs to be a vision, and the vision needs to be massive. And I think a lot of people, if we were to tie in like Freelancer in your world and in our gym world, it's more of the personal trainer who wants to build a business. They're kind of a freelancer themselves, meaning they're just training clients and that's how they built their business and they want to expand. And obviously they can't, their time is being traded where they can't really build a bigger income unless they bring more people in. And if they don't have a vision from the start, and the vision needs to be something that isn't so much about yourself, part of it needs to be, but it needs to be about what dream outcomes you're creating for your clients, like you just said. And there was this talk that I got to watch with Steve Wozniak, and he was one of the founders of Apple. And the guy who was interviewing him said, what is the one thing that you were most proud of with Apple throughout your entire career with Apple? And Steve Wozniak said when he was leaving Apple on his last day, he was driving away from the headquarters and he was driving around all these homes. And these homes are like 1.8 million, $2 million homes. And there's rows of them. And every single home was owned by an Apple employee. And he said to himself that knowing that he was able to create lives for these people that were so of abundance was his biggest thing that fulfilled him the most, which meant that his mission and the mission at the time of Apple was, yes, it was to change the world and how we communicate and how we use technology, but ultimately it was changing the lives of the people that were working on the same mission. And so the
Mm.
vision was so big that every single employee saw their own vision of what they wanted to capture for their own life within that vision. And so if you don't have a mission or a vision for your business and you're just focusing, like you said, on making $1,000 and here and there and not focusing on, well, what's the real outcome we're trying to create?
Yes.
You will get stuck. every single time. And not only that, you will lose clients because you're just focusing on the short term. And when you get your mindset about the vision, you realize it's a long-term goal, and then all the bumps and roads of business, right? Because business is not straight up. I don't care who says it is. They're fucking wrong. It's all these different, plateaus and dips and everything else. But when you realize that the vision's so much bigger, those dips don't become so painful. Like, yeah, there's things that we need to improve, but that's the state of business. But when you realize, hey, are we actually following through with the mission that we're driving at? Yes. Are clients seeing the results that they want? Yes. Are we making sure that they're growing themselves, right? Especially as coaches, my clients need to not just get the result that we advertise. Like when we market that we're going to help you close membership sales without free trials or discounts. It's very attractive for sure. But then when they get into the program and we solve that one problem, they realize there's a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is that we've solved that problem. Now, where do we go? And a few of my clients, it's just more about leadership. It's more about
Yes.
how to build a legacy, not just a business that makes money. And so when you have that clarity, again, clarity's there again, when you have that clarity behind it and you can really have a vision that's massive, it has to be massive. You can't be afraid here. It can't be something like, I just want to provide for my family. I get it. That's a normal thing to have in the very beginning. But when you think about it bigger and when you start to needing to scale and bring more people in, like we have for our own companies, they are only going to be bought in by the vision, especially when there's downtimes, when there's leads that maybe are not coming in and showing up. If they're just focused on their, commission, on their salary, on all those things, employees either grow or they decay. That's the
Mm,
only way. They never stay stagnant. They either grow or they decay. And if you're not having a vision and really ensuring that everyone's following the vision, they will start to decay and then they'll leave you and they'll go to a different competitor, a different company. So having this vision, and I keep saying it because I really want to reinforce this to people that are listening, you need to have a vision that is so fucking big that it literally makes people go, wow, I'm excited to not only work at this company, but for your clients, I'm excited to be a part of this
yes.
company. I'm excited to be a client of this company because that's how you retain your business and that's how you change and evolve. And that's how you get a lot of clients to almost become ambassadors for you. They promote your own business without even asking anything in return. And that's what we really want, right? I mean, look at the biggest brands in the world, the Nikes of the world, the Apples of the world. Like people just love wearing Jordans and shoes. They don't care. Like people will pay that price, that expensive price, because they love what the brand represents. Whether
Mm,
it's an influencer that stands for something or there's core values that uphold the brand and that they can be a part of, right? So I really think that really ties into everything that you just said. But realistically, vision is what matters the most in terms of really being a business owner. And your job as the CEO is to consistently grow and build that vision and make everyone see that it's still there. Because when things are down, that's the motivator to get everybody moving up and going, we got this, we still got this. It's a downtime, who cares? We're still pushing our vision, we're still going to make it happen. And then the
yes.
fruits of your labor really show, for sure.
Where do you think it changed for you? And I'm assuming, but I feel like I'm assuming correctly because we're ambitious men. But when it was younger Giuseppe, like mini Giuseppe, you obviously like really just wanted to make as much cash as possible, right? What was the changing moment where you thought, okay, the money's great, but it's not the core anchor anymore. It's fulfillment. What changed for you?
Such a great question. When I started seeing people have success after helping them. So forget about coaching. When I was leading teams, and even though like it was great to get really good compensation and all this type of stuff, when I saw an employee who was really struggling and I was able to help them not only improve in their job, but eliminate their limiting beliefs and install empowering ones and see them grow as a person and knowing I played a role in that, that was
Mm,
the most fulfilling thing. And that was the thing that was like, that's what I want to do. Like making money is great. And I'm not against making money. I think it's a vital importance as a tool for your business and also for yourself, right? We all have our own materialistic dreams that we want. We should. I mean, if you don't, I feel bad for you. Like you should have materialistic goals. But when you literally, at least for me, when you see somebody go from, oh man, this is impossible, I can't do this, and then all of a sudden they get some success
Mm,
and their whole mindset changes, it's the most exciting feeling. And I think that's why we're both in coaching because, yeah, we make money, we do really cool things, but to see people who have been struggling just like we were and change and grow is the most fulfilling thing that I find, and that's what really made the change for me. About this is not no longer about building money just for myself. It's about building wealth for the business and changing more lives and utilizing that wealth to really impact people. That's why we empower studio owners. We don't do the work for them. Like there's a lot of, we're against marketing agencies. I hate marketing agencies. I think they're shit. The reason why I think they're shit is because they have a bunch of different clients. They're focusing on one thing and they're doing all the work for them. And the owners can't really understand whether it's working or not, if it's their
yeah.
fault, if it's the marketing agency's fault. So when you give the tools to the gym owners to really understand, like, marketing is not marketing, it's about creating a movement, it's about dialing in your messaging, and they understand the tools. Now they know if they ever do need to outsource, like, it's about just hiring someone to do something for you. It's hiring somebody and having them do exactly what you know works, and them just multiplying it so you could buy back your time and really focus on what you need to do. And I think that was the biggest change for me, and I think for my whole mindset in terms of money over everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It's very much like I think it's an age thing. I think it kind of does have to come down to age because 22-year-old Ben just wanted to make six figures per year. Then I hit that and I was like, now I want to hit multi figures. Now I want to drive a Tesla. Now I want to have a house, right? And the more and more of those materialistic things you tick off the bucket list, it just becomes apparent that it's never really going to fill that hole that you're so desperately trying to fill. And I know it's just like some woohoo, blase corporate shit that I'm spieling now, but it's completely bang on. And it's like, you kind of have to make a decent amount of cash to realize it. That's the fallacy in it, right? It's like, unless you're a monk and you can kind of reach enlightenment, if I say entitlement, reach enlightenment, it's gonna be really hard to see that, right? Like, there's that quote by Jim Carrey, and he's like, "I wish everyone could become rich and famous tomorrow so they can realize it's not the answer," and it's so true, right? And it's like, this is why I sold Otter, because it got to the point where I had quote unquote realized my success and I was so unhappy. And I was like, man, like, I felt guilty because I knew there were so many struggling videographers out there who would kill to have my role, kill to have my position, and I didn't want it, right? And I went through this whole dark journey of kind of resenting the business that I'd built for myself, and resented the time it was taking away from my family, and resented that it wasn't pushing me where I wanted to go anymore. And I think in a really, really sad way, the because of that, the business stagnated, right? And it's like, I, I think without me there, they can maybe do better now, because my heart wasn't in it anymore. My heart had transitioned to something else, right? And changing from running the agency to helping others do it, I feel like I'm 2017 Ben again, who's just so in love with what he's doing, so in love with getting up every day and 12-hour work days, man. Like, it sounds like I'm hustling, but I'm just really enjoying it. I want to be at my computer. I want to be making content. I want to be jumping on coaching calls. I want to be giving people the answers they need, because fundamentally it became about the fulfillment, right? And it's like, I think when you make that change, and here's the irony, right? Is I think now that that mindset shift has happened to me, and probably to you, more and more money is now going to come our way as a byproduct of what we're doing. And that's one of the hardest things I think to teach is, if you just focus on customer success, you will have an abundance of money. But I think in your 20s, you're just like, man, give me the fucking Lambo. I'll watch Andrew Tate. I just want to get all this fucking money and crypto and all this sort of stuff, right? And like, that drive is amazing, right? Harness that drive. But if you harness it into impact and delivery, you will far succeed anything else you could imagine by doing some sort of Hustlers University course or like
Yeah.
Forex trading course, right?
Yeah, I think what would really help people listening who are like, oh, that's great, and you're talking about fulfillment, but I haven't made, you know, 50,000, 60,000, $100,000. It's easy for you to say. Let me ask you this, Ben. Is it fair to make five, six, seven figures without investing five, six, seven figures?
Fuck no. Yeah,
Right.
I used to say this to clients all the time, and they were like, "Oh, your really production rates they're quite expensive compared to your competitors." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's have a deep dive at the problem we're trying to solve here, right? So you have this new product launch, you want to make, I don't know, 10,000 sales before the end of the year. Like, how much is that going to bring in for your business? Oh, it's going to bring in 150,000. It's like, okay, so we have $150,000 problem, and you're not willing to invest $6,000 to fix that problem. Like, what are you expecting to solve 150 grand problem with a $500 solution? Like, that's just not going to fucking work. Like, if I could just give you, oh yeah, dude, I bet you 100 grand, give me $500, I would be the richest man on the planet. But like, that's just not the reality of business.
It's so funny because even like you brought up Bezos, I mean, there's so many interviews with him where Amazon was not making money for a long
Mm.
time. And I remember he was on some talk show and they were like, Amazon's losing money, but you seem very happy. And he's like, yeah, because we're actually building something that even though the stock is dropping and money isn't going where it needs to go, the rebound of it, of what we're investing in, is going to catapult it. And I think a lot of people who are starting out in their journey, whether it's freelancing or in the gym world, if you're a personal trainer who's deciding to start their own online training business or wants to build their own gym, and you're afraid to make the investment, and you're like, well, I don't have a lot in my savings. The real question is are you willing to really bet on yourself to
Yes.
make it happen? If you're not willing to bet on yourself, then you need to invest in skills. Both categories, whether you are or not, you still need to invest in skills, but you need to get into a mindset of this has to work. Like there are no other options. If I'm truly passionate about what I'm doing, and again, have the big vision of what I want this to be,
Yes.
I have to be willing to invest. And I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, I've invested five figures into my own development. And no, I didn't have that money. Did I pull loans? Yeah. Do I suggest people to pull loans? Maybe, maybe not. That's your own personal choice. But if I didn't make those decisions to do so, I mean, I'm living in New Jersey with the view of Manhattan behind me, not because I just thought, oh, that's the vision I wanted. No, I had to take massive action into going, how do I become that person? What does it take? What does that person who lives this life, who has these things, what do they embody and what do they have? And investing in the time with people. And I think coaching is the biggest hack that you can, if there's a hack, right? Which we all know there really isn't a hack, but if there's a hack, it's learning from the people who have done it. And we all have two forms of currency, time and money. And if you're willing to invest six, seven, 10, $12,000, $50,000 to somebody who's willing to give you their time to show you what took them 20 years to
Yes.
really understand and condense it into a few months, maybe even a year, you're going to catapult and you're going to grow. And not only are you going to make that money back, you're going to make more money than you realize. And then you're going to be talking like we are about more about client success, fulfillment, and growth. And so I think what's just really important for people to understand who really want to make a difference, want to build a business, want to build a brand, whether it's in the video space or in the fitness world, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And it never stops,
It never
right?
stops.
It never stops. You can't stop. The moment you stop investing in your own development is the moment things start to go down. Because when problems come up and you go, oh, like we were successful here, what's going on? Well, you know what? There's a reason why my company is called Rise Up Innovations. That word innovation is there. We're very focused on trying to get ahead of everybody and learning how the human behavior changes happen in society, how technology is changing, and that involves learning. That involves education. So we are constantly, myself and my team members are constantly doing self-development to become better so that we are ahead of the curve because companies don't last. You know, you might have a good year, good 2 years, And I know a lot of companies and a lot of owners that had a good couple of years and then they shut down because
Same.
they don't continue to invest. They stop staying hungry in terms of self-development.
Yes.
They think, oh, I've been able to do this now. And then all of a sudden AI comes into the picture, right? And now everything's different. And you can sit here, and I was one of those people. I was like, oh, AI, screw AI, it's not good, blah, 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 blah. Now
Yeah.
I have AI utilizing with my business, in my business to help my clients succeed. And if we're not constantly investing in learning of the things and putting the ego aside and going, hey, this is something new, this is coming, I have no choice, I have to learn how to mitigate this. Just like you talked about Amazon changed like the business things, people's perception of when they receive things is because of Amazon Prime. Sometimes you get things the same day when you order them. So it's like,
That's
how do
more of
we,
a that's more of a benefit for the Americans and the Brits.
for sure, as I talk over here in America, right? Like, I mean, shit, I can order something literally earlier today and probably would have gotten it tonight. And then when you order from a private company and it's like it's going to take a week, you're like,
And you
shit,
got to pay.
yeah, and you got to pay. And then you're like, man, I might as well just do it from Amazon. Well, how are you focusing on building your business better to follow through with that human behavior? And if you're sitting there going, well, I don't have the money, all that stuff, that's a crack of shit. You
Yeah.
just don't have the answers. And I have a saying, when you're overwhelmed, it's because you're lacking knowledge. So any
Yes.
moment that you're overwhelmed and you're like, I'm struggling here, it's because you're lacking some form of knowledge and literally learning one little thing, right? Like we could talk about ads and how ads have changed our businesses. Learning how to really build a great ad changed everything. And that was
Yes.
something that we invested to learn to get better at. And once you realize, holy crap, that's what it took to invest this amount of money to make that money back in maybe not tomorrow or the next day, but maybe in a few months, and then go, I need to keep learning, you realize that it's a lot simpler when you put it that way, and that you have that abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. It will literally change the game for you. So I think if you're struggling, if you're like, I don't know how to make a lot of money, I don't have a lot of time, start with investing in people who have done the thing you want to do. You don't
Mm.
need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to understand and learn. And then over time, you can mold it and build it to what makes the most sense. But you have the knowledge as a base.
Yeah. I remember when I was watching Gary Vee in my earlier days, and maybe Hormozy as well, and they said the best investment you can ever make is on yourself. And I think he did a video recently in the last 6 months. He's like, if you've got 10 grand, don't put it in the fucking stock market, and put it into a program or courses that's going to help you get to the next level. And like, dude, I've spent well over £100,000 on camera kit in my lifetime. Well over. Like one piece of like a red camera we bought was like $45,000, right? Now, if I look at the ROI on that camera, it is 100% negative. 100% negative. Now, could I have shot Hollywood level films on that camera? Sure. Absolutely. Is it a thing of beauty? Yeah, of course. It's a Ferrari, right? It's an amazing, beautiful piece of kit. But it did jack shit for the business. It did jack shit for the business. And then when I started to, okay, now I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to spend $500 on some fucking PDF or like course, right? And I was like, okay, I learned one or two things from that. It's kind of helpful. But then when you get into the realms of like, okay, I'm going to hire a coach, I'm going to put 6, 10, 20, 30K down to have a transformation of where I'm at now to what I'm going to do. And most of the time, right, if you're in the business space, if you're going to invest in a business program, you're going to get a guarantee on some sort of ROI. If you put the work in, you're going to get an ROI. So like these things don't really cost money. They're just costing you money right now. So future you can make more. And I started off investing small amounts, and then I think in my entire career now, I've probably invested over $35,000 in coaching programs, masterminds, things like that. And I can say easily the ROI has been fucking phenomenal, both in financials, both in goals, but I guess most importantly would be mindset. Like, just being able to be around people who have done what you've done, and the massive problems and demons that you're dealing with, to them it's a completed level they've done 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's like, oh dude, you're struggling with that demon, you just need to do XXY, get the sword from this area, and it makes it way easier. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about doing that. I've been trying to kill this guy X, Y, and Z way for like 2 years. Like, yeah, that's fucking stupid, don't do that. Oh, okay. And then it's like, I think with coaches, Sometimes you just need someone to give you permission to do something completely different and look at it completely differently so you can do that and then make the change instead of just constantly banging your head against the wall, right? And like, I guess there must be, I guess there's similarities here between like buying really expensive camera kit that doesn't do jack shit for the business, just like investing in loads of really pretty gym equipment, which isn't going to bring in
Oh,
more customers, right?
dude, it's insane. I mean, I remember working with a client who had some of the best equipment in the world. It was actually my first ever client, and he had this amazing equipment, but he could not close any deals. And he didn't understand. He's like, we got this and that and that. And this goes more to the sales thing and back to what you said about outcome. It's like people don't care about features. They don't care about the pretty shiny things. They care about, are they gonna get the outcome that is needed? And when you realize that it's all about the outcome, there's a lot of things that you probably don't need to invest in right away until you get a clear line of the client journey and realize when those investments can actually play a bigger benefit maybe later down the road. One of the things that I actually want to touch on that you brought up, one of the things I think we should talk about in another episode is about people who you surround yourself with, because I think that's a huge component of success. But I think there's a whole issue right now in the coaching space, and I went through this too. Coaches are scammers. Courses are scamming. And I went through a whole identity crisis just calling myself a coach because I didn't want to be appearing as a scammer. And I would love for you to touch up, because I have some opinions about it too, but what would you tell people who are like, you see the comments, nice try, Diddy, right? Like all those
Yeah.
comments about people who are advertising coaching. What would you tell somebody who maybe in the spots that we were in the beginning of our business, who were thinking about investing in a coach, but really afraid? Because I know you have a story about one of the coaches you've hired and like how much research you did and everything else.
Mm.
What would you say to those people who are like, I want to invest in someone to help me, but I feel like they're a scammer? And the people that I do want to invest, like the Patrick Bet Davids, the Dan Martells, the Andy Frisellas, the Ed Milettes, they're just really high price points that I can't afford. And understandably, like those guys are really at a level that are just out there. What would you say to those people and how to approach, hiring a coach?
It's a lot of like investing, right? So like you don't go out there and just put 10 grand on a stock you've never heard of because someone on Reddit said it's going to blow up soon, right? Like the due diligence on that is ridiculous. Like you haven't done enough research. And I remember like hiring one of my mentors that you said, I spoke to about 8 or 9 of his clients before I even jumped on a call with him to find out if everything he was saying had gravity. And I watched every single one of his YouTube videos, right? But and that was just all me being having due diligence of my own money. But what ended up happening is I ended up consuming so much of his content that I was like, yeah, I completely fucking believe this guy. I believe the trust was built. Joined the program and it changed my life, right? And I have joined other programs where I have spent an obscene amount of money joining, and it's been a crock of shit, been an absolute crock of shit, right? And like, I think fundamentally there is no true fire way to make sure the program you join is the right one for you, apart from doing a lot of research beforehand to make sure they are who they say they are and they have the receipts. But like for example, that program I joined a program last year, and I can't actually say too much about it because I've signed an NDA, but it really wasn't great. And it wasn't great at all. And I was at the point then I was like, man, I've been burned really hard here. I've been burned really hard, spent a lot of money. And it almost made me like pivot away from coaching as a whole, because I was like, oh, I don't want to be part of this space that just fucks people, right? I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be seen as the same as this other coach. And then I found, Jeremy's and joined, and it was the complete opposite effect of what had happened, right? And that's really what I was like, holy fuck. If you do this right and you give a shit about the people, it can have life-changing effects. And that's what I have found has happened with my students now. I mean, I did a testimonial with one of my clients, Nick, and it got a bit emotional at the end. And he literally said to me, it's been a life-changing experience. And like, that concept that someone would say that to me based on the help I provided them still baffles me. like I still haven't really processed the fact that he felt like comfortable saying something like that. And like, I mean, just the idea of saying your program I found life changing. It's like, dude, that's worth more than anything I could ever have wished for. I mean, I get emotional just thinking about him saying it, because I also know his journey, where he came from, the parts that he'd been burned on by joining coaching programs and talking to mentors and stuff like that. And I think that story of me being burned so fucking badly at the start has just drastically increased my conviction to make sure that none of my students ever have that feeling or experience, or if they have, when they find me, it's never going to happen again. You know, I don't know if you've had similar experiences with that before, because I know you've also jumped into quite a few.
Yeah. One, the fact there was an NDA is a total red flag, right? Like, total red flag. But, you know, there's just the online space has gotten so polluted with people who are trying to make a quick buck.
Yes.
And it's gotten harder than ever because coaches are popping up every single day telling you they can change your lives, they can do these things. And the issue is that it's the very few that are bad that get called out that make the whole industry into a really bad thing. You said something about receipts. That's one thing you need to look at. But I like to sum it up and say real recognizes real.
Mm.
So if you're absorbing their content and they're talking real, like real and not flashy stuff and showing you their Lambo and showing you their Rolexes and all that type of stuff, and they can talk to you on a level that you actually understand and go, wow, this totally speaks to me in a way that makes sense, you will have this understanding that this is potentially the right program. I love what you said, that you can't really find the right program for you because you do have to go through it. You do have to find it. And I've had experiences where there are programs that were good, they just weren't the right ones for me.
Yes.
But real recognizes real. Do they have a team? Do they have a bunch of testimonials? Do they have success? What have they done? I think that's the biggest part, is what have they actually done? In my space, there are so many coaches and gurus that talk about, we can get you 170 members, without a bigger price point. And no offense to them, but they maybe had one or two successful gyms. There's one that I heard that had 8. I had 15. And that's where I know I stand out the most, because I've had the masses and more experience than I think anybody. Nothing against Alex Hormozy. I had more gyms than Alex Hormozy. And I think he's one of the biggest geniuses when it comes to entrepreneurship. But I know when it comes to the gym world, I can spin circles around him, because I know what it takes to run 15 locations, having direct reports, having team members, hundreds of employees, being part of a private equity firm, and utilizing that capital to make sure we make a profit for the shareholders. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things. And so you need to really look at what these people have done. They should not be afraid to tell you where they fucked up, and they shouldn't
Mm.
be afraid to tell you stories of what's actually happened. And you should be able to research them, find the truth about them, and know exactly what they've done before you make the investment. There's so many ways to flash and show different things, and people can regurgitate what people say and make it sound like they created it in their own way. But in reality, real recognizes real. If you hear people and you talk to them and you find the coach that literally speaks the language that you're going through and the problems you have and the stories that they've had, and you absorb their content, that is the best indicator to know whether the program is the right fit for you, at least in the initial period. Then going into the program, make sure you've done everything that you possibly can to get success, and
Mm.
challenge the coach.
Yeah.
Challenge coaches. We put you guys, our clients, we put their feet to the fire, because that's our job. We want the challenge back. We want to hear it, because that's our job. It's to pivot and smash your limiting beliefs to install empowering ones that actually lead you to success. And if you are not willing to challenge the status quo, there's some lack of faith that you have in the program or within yourself that's a bigger problem that you need to really address. But I think just when you look at hiring a coach, like there's a coach I just hired recently that you and I know about, that I've had my thoughts about. And because of the value he's brought on a consistent basis, I said, you know what? Like my favorite saying, I messaged this to you on WhatsApp. You're like, why did you decide to invest in this guy? I said, well, why did Michael Jordan hire Tim Grover? Because when Michael Jordan hired Tim Grover, he became the GOAT. Even though Michael Jordan was really good at the time, when he got Tim Grover, even though Michael Jordan was that good, he's like, I can be better. And
Mm,
so when you realize you find somebody of value that can teach you something different, even if it's a skill set that you're really good at, but you can get even better for more insight because this person has way more experience in a certain avenue of business than
yes.
you do. That's when you really understand, okay, this is the right investment. This is the right person I can trust.
Yeah. Amen. Completely true. Um, okay, cool. So to wrap up a pretty awesome first episode of like what it actually takes to build a business, can you give me one word that would the one trait that it takes, the biggest trait?
One word, risk. Like risk. It's just everything risk. And I'm going to put things around risk because you said it's one word, but I want to make it clear. Risk, even when you're not 100% certain it's going to work.
Yes.
And when everyone around you doubts it, because your family members and your friends, if I would have listened to my family members about investing in things,
Yeah, dude.
I would have never ever gotten to where I need to be.
I'd be so
Every time
broke.
I was like, "Oh, I'm going to make an investment," they're like, "That sounds like a bad idea." And then all of a sudden I do it and they see success and they're like, "You always could do it. Like it's amazing." And blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Dude, you told me in the beginning not to do this, right?"
Yeah.
So it's risk and really understanding that, hey, it may not work, but you have to take risks. You have to put it on the line. You have to go into it. And I love this saying, the difference between um, the courageous person, the person who's fearful, is that the courageous person is scared, but they're still going to go through with it. Meanwhile, the
Mm.
person fearful never takes an action. What about you? What's the one word to sum it all up?
Resilience.
Ooh, that's a
And
good one.
I think because like you can be the Elon Musk, you can be the best entrepreneur in the world, but if you're not resilient, you're going to give up at the first hurdle. And really, business, regardless of what level you get to, it's just constantly trying to innovate, failing, 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 then succeeding, then it's level two, and you repeat. And it's really exhausting and it's really fucking hard. But it's a perspective because I would say like one of my biggest strengths is to be resilient. It's just to sit in the fucking fire and just think, okay, like that meme of the dog in the burning house, like this is
Yeah,
fine, right? Like,
this is fine. He's drinking a cup of coffee. Yeah,
so like
dude.
that, I'd say that's how I kind of am, like almost like uninformed optimism. I'm just optimistic because I don't really see the point in being any way else or any the way of transitioning anywhere else, right? And it's like there's nothing wrong with trying something and giving it your all. And if it doesn't work, put that baton down, pick the next one up, and go again. Like this is like the best businesses are almost never made on their first go, right? And there's an amazing quote by Mark Zuckerberg that he did when he was speaking at Harvard, and it stays with me. At like I must think about it on a daily basis, and it's like ideas don't come out fully formed, right? And like my coaching program now from where it was 6 months ago is completely different, right? But I had to begin the journey. I had to begin coaching. I had to put things in motion so I could become a better coach. And then it's like twofold of like, okay, what kind of coach am I going to be in 2 years' time? Drastically different, drastically more improved. Am I going to face hardships? Is shit going to go wrong? Is it going to go through periods where it sucks? Yeah, of course. But like, that's where it takes to be resilient and kind of have thick skin. The thick skin that I think Brits are typically grown with, and then Americans, especially in New York and New Jersey, are kind of grown into as well. And that probably what makes us such strong entrepreneurs is the fact that you are just going to get punched in the face constantly, but if you can weather it, you can have anything you want.
Amen. That's a great way to wrap it up, brother.
Gee, that's been an awesome podcast. I'm looking forward to the next one where we're going to talk a bit more about the fact that maybe you don't need more clients, you just need more of a backbone.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that one. But dude, I really appreciate your time.
Same here, brother. Let's keep adding value.
See you in the next one.